So tonight we'll get to the seventh Dibra, which is Loisin Af, the Issa for an Aseres Ish to be Mezane Tachas Bala. Now, once again, just like by Loisitzach, we tie it, the Chayre doesn't need any Größer Teure to explain the Chayme of the Inyan. And the Inyan of the Aseres Ish being Mezane seems so obviously a terrible, terrible, terrible crime that it seems almost superfluous to search further what the implications might be and why this Issa of Loisinov would make it to the level of a Dibra. Now, funnily enough, you have the Ramban, and he says Pshat differently than we would have thought. If we would have asked ourselves, like, what's so bad about an Isha and Aseres Ish being Mezane? We would have said, like it says in the Pasha, Saita, or Moal Be'isha, it's a Meila, like it's a Kenyan, Kiddushin is a Kenyan, and the Isha is Mezane Tachas Baila. I mean, why do you have to look for more horrible things than the thing itself is horrible? Aber the Ramban sagt anders. What does the Ramban say? The Ramban says over here in Yisrael, V'loi sinov Aseres le'echa. Why? Kisach ba'ol inyan kibut ha'ovais. Because if you're going to have the woman being mezane with somebody who's not her husband, so you're going to undermine the kibut ha'ovais. Lichfa be'emes, to be koifa in the emes, or lahoides b'sheker. Because the child who's born won't know who his real father is. It could be the husband of his wife, and it could be the person who was mezane with the woman. Ki lo yedu es avihem, v'yitnu kvoidam la'acher, kasher yasu oivdei avodah zarah, oimrim le'etz oviyatam. Now it's just like the oivdei avodah zarah, that means the second Dibra of the Aseres Hadibros is the Issa of avodah zarah. And now the Ramban says that what's the evil of avodah zarah is that they give the cover, which is the right of the Rebbeinu Shalom, they give that cover to something else. So the Issa of Niyuf is because the covet which is due to the father, they will be giving to somebody else, depending who the father is. We don't know who the father is. That's such a strange thing. Do we have to come on to that? And Bichlal, like we see over here, this unbelievable chayma of Kibbut Av V'Em, that not only is Kibbut Av V'Em in the Aseres HaDibros, no, the seventh of the Dibra is Ka'en, a Geder for the mitzvah of Kibbut Av V'Em, to protect Kibbut Av V'Em. Loisinov, don't be menaiv, so that you will not know, the child will not know who is the father, and he will deny the real father his rights. And the Ramban goes even further, and v'lo signoif nefesh ki hu k'moi kein goyrem kazos. Because if you kidnap a child, so you bring him up someplace else, so you also get completely confused. Who is my biological father? And Lemaisa, through the kidnapping, you will again deny the covet of the child to the father, because he won't know who the father is. So we have over here, very unexpectedly I would say, the Ramban himself widening the scope of the Issa of Niyuf, that the Issa of Niyuf is not exhausted in itself, that simply because you were menaiv, that's the most terrible thing. No. The reason, apparently, the Ramban seems to explain, why does this Issa find itself into the Aseres Hadibros? It finds itself into the Aseres Hadibros because it's there as a protection for the mitzvah of Kibbut Av V'Em. The Ramban before had said a couple of lines earlier, he had said, Oma hinei tzivisicho lahodos shani boire hakoel belevo b'maise. I commanded you in the first Dibra, Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher tzesicha be'eretz Mitzrayim. And furthermore, I commanded you ulechabed ha'ovos ba'avur shehem mishtatfim b'yitzira, because they are my shutofim in the creation of the child. And then the Ramban goes on, that's why you shouldn't kill. We talked about that last week. But now we've got the same Yesod. You see that the Ovais are so important in the sense that they're Shutfim of the Rebbeinu Shloim, that I want you to give cover to them, and through being Menayef, you will deny them the cover. Through kidnapping a child, you will deny the father the covet. What's so important about Kivud Avoim? I would have thought it's enough that the mitzvah itself finds its place in the Aseres Hadibros, but that there should be a kilo, a gezerah, or to a lack of Kivud Avoim. What's going on over here? So, it seems to me that we are on the right path for trying to find. Remember, we've tried now, when we got through each one of the Dibras, we tried to find that if our definition of the Dibra is correct, namely that the Dibras are the constitutional principles on which a Mamlechas Koyanim, the Goy Kodesh, is built, so then we have to find out why should Niyuf be specifically the foundation of a Mamlechas Koyanim, the Goy Kodesh. Anybody understands this? It belongs to the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, that Arayas. So the Eishes Ish is also by Ben Noach also. So what's it doing over here as a principle, as a Dibra? The Teretz is, Dr. Ramban, that it's much, much, much wider than we would have thought. It's not the Maises Nus itself. It's the Pegia in the Kibbud Avoim. Now, what's so important about Kibbud Avoim? And that brings us to the issue of the family in Klal Yisrael. In the Mamlechas Koyanim v'Goy Kodesh, what is the nature of the family? What is the function of the family? How important is the family in the structure of a Mamlechas Koyanim v'Goy Kodesh? And the answer is that it's very, very important. Horaya, there's a very interesting Ramban in Nosai. In Nosai, you have after the minyan in Bamidbar, then you have the Chalukah of the Levium, and so on and so forth. And then suddenly you have these three Pashias of Gezel Hager, and Saita, and Nozir. And so the question is, how do these Pashias come into here? Rashi, I think we've mentioned this before once, that Rashi doesn't seem to be interested why these Pashias are in Bamidbar. He just explains the order between the three Pashias. Why Saita follows Gezel Hager, and why Nozir follows Saita. But what they're doing Bichlal over here in Bamidbar, we don't know. Comes again the Ramban, and he says, V'lo nizkecho minchas Saita im sha'ah ha-menochas b'toiras koyanim. The Saita has to bring a mincha. It's a minchas kenois. So why don't you bring it together with all the other menochas in Vayikra? What's it doing over here in Bamidbar? So then the Ramban says a certain teretz, and then he says a second teretz. For Oid, another reason why it belongs over here and not in Vayikra. V'Oid ba'avur sheyiches es ha'am lebeis avoisam. When he counted the people, what was the unit of the counting? It was lemishpachosam lebeis avoisam. Nosan lehem das vodin lodas hamamzerem she'enam b'nei bale imoisam kasher yovar chashat b'leifo ish al ishtar. In other words, that the Torah said, look, by counting you according to the base Av, I told you and I showed you how important the family is in the structure of my Mamlechas Koyanim v'Goy Kodesh. Now I have to give you the means by which you can assure the integrity of that family, and that is the Parsha of Saita. Nachamol. V'oid ba'avur sheyiches es ha'am leveis avoisam nosan lohem das v'din lo das hamamzerem she'enam b'nei bale imoisam. Because the base Av has to remain holy. So we see that the base Av, because the Ramban over here, we can't blame the Ramban for this, he's giving us a very, very good mahalach why Saita is over here in Bamidbar, not in Vayikra. But he's not telling us, taking the question a step further, why is the unit of counting the base Av? Why not count the individuals? That's a good question. Why should the counting be Lemishpachosam Leveis Avoisam? Why should we say that the building block of Klal Yisrael is the Beis Av, the Mishpachosam Leveis Avoisam? What's wrong with individuals? Zet Medoch, and now we get a very, very enormously potent insight into what the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted of this Mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh. It's the family unit which the Rebbeinu Shalom wants, more than the individual. Why would that be? The teretz is because it's only in the family unit, a family unit consisting of a father and a mother and a child, that the individual can come into his own. Why? Because the chashivas of an individual in a Mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh, what makes an individual significant in a Mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh? The answer is because he is a mamshech of the Messiah. That is what Klal Yisrael is. Klal Yisrael, this Mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh, is a nothing more keilu than a binding the subsequent generations to Ma'amet HaSinai. All of us stood at Ma'amet HaSinai. Our neshamas, Chazal tell us, were at Ma'amet HaSinai. But that has to express itself, and therefore every individual is choshev only because he is kosher to Ma'amet HaSinai. And how is he kosher to Ma'amet HaSinai? He's kosher to Ma'amet HaSinai because through the father. The father is moister to him. You have to have a family unit. We know the Raivet, the Balei HaNefesh, he has this Moedik Yesod. He asks, how come that of all the creatures in the world, the human creature is most dependent when he's born? You look at in a farmyard and you see a cow giving birth to a calf. 2 seconds later, it licks the calf gets up and starts going and drinks by the it can walk 2 minutes after it's born. Baby, we've all, those of us who've been blessed with children can see how exciting it was when it took a first step, 9 months, 10 months, but till a child becomes independent is a very, very, very big mahalach. And why should it be that way? Why is it that all the Balei Chayim become independent much more quickly than that? And it says because he needs the chinuch of his parents. That you see that the teva reflects the rotzen of the Rebbeinu Shalom. The rotzen of the Rebbeinu Shalom is that the child should be reared by his parents. And what is the parent? What is the tata? The tata is the Moiser of the Messiah. That's the Ramban in Voice Chanan. That's this Moiradike Ramban. And it says like this. You know what does it say in the Pasuk? It says, Hishom elecho ben tishkas advorim asher ro'eh necho ufen yosuru milvavcho kol yemei chayecho yoim asher amadeto lifnei Hashem Elokeinu b'chayrev v'hidatam levonecho v'lifnei vonecho. Sagt der Ramban, v'hatzoeles b'mitzvah asayis gedoylo ma'od. Why? She'im hoyu divrei hatoiro boim eleinu mipi Moshe bilvad. If we had not stood at Sinai, and only Moshe Rabbeinu would have known about this whole thing, so then, Aval Pisha Nevuosa Nisamsa Ba'oisas of Moshe, although we believe Moshe Rabbeinu, because he earned our trust with all the nisim that he made, but still, Im Yokum Bekirbeinu Novi Ochoilem Chaloim V'yitzavenu Behepach Min HaTorah V'yiten Eleinu Oisai Moifes, so Yikones Sofek B'leif HaNoshem. Maybe this guy's right. Maybe his eyes is bigger than the miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu did. So, the Rebbeinu Shalom made sure that we ourselves should have stood at Sinai. Aval kishigia eleinu haTorah mibiyakvura le'ozneinu ve'eineinu haroyos. Ein shtam emtzoi, without any go-between. Then, nakresh kol choylek v'chol mesapek. We will destroy, we will, what's the nakresh? No, I've lost the word. We will deny what he says. The choylem chalaim. Why? Here, nakresh kol choylek v'chol mesapek. Und a shaker osai. lo yoyelu ois, v'lo yatzilehu moifes min hamisa biyodenu, ki anachnu hayoydim b'shiklusoi. B'zeh sha'oma v'gam b'cho yaminu l'oilam. Oh, but that's the people of Surah Sinai. What about the next generation? Ki kshena'atik gam kein hadova levonenu, yedu shehoyo hadova emes b'loi sofek, ki ilu ra'uhu kol ha'toivos, ki loi noed shekel levonenu, v'loi nanchil oisam divrei hevel, ve'ein bam moyer. Oh, והם לא יסתפקו כלל בעדותינו שנוהג להם, אבל יאמינו בוודאי שראינו כולנו בעינינו וכל מה שסיפרנו להם בעניין הזה יובא את הפרס and so on and so forth. The Ramban so meidig. He's saying that the whole emunah in Ma'amad HaSinai, the whole emunah in Yiddishkeit, what keeps Yiddishkeit together, that is the yachas of the children to the father. Because the father is not going to be meyed sheker to his children. Isn't that something? So that is, I mean, the Ramban doesn't say the following in so many words, but that's what I'm touching up. I think that that's the emes. So what did we say? Why is the family unit so important? And how do I know that the family unit is so important? Because the Rebbeinu Shem counted as l'mishpachas am leveis avaisam. And it's only because he counted as l'mishpachas am leveis avaisam that it became necessary to put the Pasha of Saita in Nasa. So we see that everything is coming together, and that is why the Ramban is saying that Kibbut Avoim, that Niyuf, is in the Aseres Hadibros. It's there to protect the Kibbut Avoim. What is Asay wichtig? Why is Kibbut Avoim so much more important than any other mitzvahs in the Torah, that not only is it mentioned in the Aseres Hadibros, but a whole halacha later on in the Aseres Hadibros is only there to protect the Kibbut Avoim. What's it? Teretz is because in Kibbut Avoim lies the guarantee of Netzach Yisrael Lo Yishaken. That's what it is. Because the Messiah goes through the family. And the yachas of the son to the father has to be a yachas of kavod. He has to be mekhabet his father. So that we'll have the situation which arises, and that the son will trust the father absolutely, because he knows this person who is being mechabit so much is not going to be manchel sheker to his son. That's why in our generation today we have problems. You know, Rabbi Dessler writes about that in the third chelek. There's this tshuva which he has about somebody asked him. The Gemara seems to say that hitting the children is a good idea. Even a good child, it's a good idea to give him a patch once in a while. So the interlocutor of the Rabbi Dessler asked why. The child learns by copying his parents. So if the father can hit, so he's going to hit. So next time Johnny doesn't want to give him the ball, he's going to beat up Johnny. So why isn't that a danger? So Dessler says, because if the way the Torah wanted the parent-child relationship, ish ima v'oviv tiro, there has to be a moira avoim. It wouldn't occur to the child in the wildest dreams that if the father can hit, I can hit. He says it's only because all our stupidities, which are coming to us, I think, from the Goyim De'emes, but that we try to be friends to our children instead of being fathers to our children. So then you have a kasha. If my pal can hit somebody, so I can also hit somebody. But be a father, carry yourself with that dignity which is matim to somebody who's hukash kvaidam lechvaid hamokan, that the Rebbeinu Shem says, just like there's a din of kabedes Hashem mehaincha, there's a loch of kabedes avicha v'esimecha, ish ima v'oviv tira, is Hashem lakecha tira. So you have to carry yourself like that. So you're not going to be a pal of your child, you're going to be a father to your child, a loving father, but not a friend. That's something completely different. So we messed up what the Torah really wanted, and therefore we have to have a great tzoros in our dome. But the Maisa is that in the way Klal Yisrael is supposed to look, everything, mamash everything, depends on the family unit, and that is the shoyresh of the mitzvah of Kibbut Avoim. And that's why the Torah says, don't be menaif. Don't be menaif. Apart from the evil of your disloyalty to your husband, which is a terrible, terrible thing. But you're undermining the whole of Klal Yisrael. Because Klal Yisrael stands or falls by the Beis Av. That's the limit of Loisinov in the Aseres Hadibros.